Welcome back to the special coverage on Arise TV of America Decides the U.S. elections. We've talked markets, Europe reaction, Africa reaction, Asia. We just talked about precious metals and the strategies to hedge against the volatility that we're seeing in the markets, short-term and long-term. We're going to keep it going, talking about the markets now with Arise business correspondent Andrew Schmertz, who is joining me now to, of course, continue the discussion on the elections and more market updates. Andrew, welcome to the show. So the markets opened up, but the election is still undecided. Is this what many market watchers feared?
Yeah, good morning from a weary-eyed United States, and that is what they feared. Many market watchers say this is the worst-case scenario for the stock market, and that's because traders like two things. They like certainty and they like political calm. We don't have either of that this morning because much of the voting is still being counted. This election very much undecided. The market is up right now, and the S&P 500 is actually performing over the last 3 days the best it has in the last 6 months. But the key is, how long does this go on? We could have some answers today as far as the election, or at the end of the week, or possibly even longer, President Trump vowing a court fight in the Supreme Court. The longer it goes on, I suspect the higher increase in volatility we'll have. We don't have a whole lot of historical precedents to look at this, but we do have one data point that's interesting. In 2000, you'll remember Bush-Gore. We didn't have an outcome in that election until towards the end of the year as they counted the hanging Chad votes in Florida. What did the market do back then? Well, the market dropped about 8%. The Dow was down about 8%, and on a day-to-day basis, there was high volatility. So this is a big overhang for the markets right now because they want that certainty baseline information to then make their trades off of, whether good trades or bad trades. When they don't have that, it's very hard for them to put money and make bets on certain sectors of what's going on, because these are two candidates, you'll recall, who have substantially different economic policies.
Indeed. And speaking of those economic policies, Andrew, if President Trump does win, how will the market react, considering that he said there'll be no new nationwide lockdowns?
Yeah, so this is becoming a big factor. I've heard a lot of analysts talk about it this morning, that possibly Americans are just tired of the coronavirus. It's understandable, and don't want any more lockdowns and want to get back to business as usual. Now, whether that's a good idea or not, we could debate. But if that's the case, and that's what they're saying, we won't have new lockdowns. Certainly if President Trump is reelected, we won't have any nationwide lockdowns. It'll depend on the states by state. But if we don't have any lockdowns, the economy, in theory, should continue to grow and come back, providing the virus doesn't get out of control and then force people into a lockdown. So that's the big question mark right now going forward. And that's another uncertainty, of course, is COVID-19. And that's been an uncertainty for now about 8 months or so, because one day you may get some good news and then have some bad news the next day. And the stock market is very volatile when it comes to that news, because that is directly impacting economic activity. Now, President Trump does pull this out. He has talked about less regulations. He has talked about lower taxes. Those are things that Wall Street generally likes.
Indeed. Thank you for that, Andrew. So which sectors to watch for either candidate, and is it too early to trade on those beliefs?
Yeah, I think it's probably too early to trade on those, at least this morning, with still an election to be decided. However, if President Trump does win, analysts are looking at defense companies, banks, and health insurance companies as positive gains across the board in a Trump victory. If Biden wins, look for alternate energy stocks, infrastructure stocks, and possibly alternative drug stocks like marijuana stocks and the like, and look for a big impact on the health care industry as President Biden will likely expand Obamacare.
All right, Arise business correspondent Andrew Schmertz, thank you so much for taking us through the possible market reactions to whatever outcome we get. We'll keep our eyes glued to those figures coming in as the votes continue to come in. Thank you so much, Andrew. All right, let's get back to the wall here. Once again, this is where it's at. All right, 270 to win. That is the magical number. Former Vice President Joe Biden on the Democrat side, he's at 238. U.S. President Donald Trump, he is at 213. Who gets to 270? Who gets to 270? Then here's the map. Here is the map. Again, we've talked about the Rust Belt states, this region right here. This used to be the Democrats' blue wall. Pennsylvania, reliably Democratic. Michigan, reliably Democratic. Wisconsin, and we can even throw in Minnesota. This has been where the Democrats have held fort. But President Trump, back in 2016, he cracked that blue wall on his way to re-election. So where do things stand now? Pennsylvania, 20 electoral votes, they're still counting. Michigan, 16 electoral votes, they're still counting. They're still leaning Trump, but things are getting tighter. Wisconsin, President Trump was leading there. It's now turned blue. Let's take a look at a couple of these states. So Minnesota, now this was a state that Vice President Joe Biden had to hold. And so far, with 90% of the precincts reporting, he has a lead, 53% to Trump's 45%. In fact, some have even called Minnesota for Joe Biden already. So with 90% of the precincts reporting, it is not expected that this figure will change. Let's also take a look at Nevada out west. We're heading out west now. California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington. 67% of the precincts reporting. So this is still not conclusive. Hillary Clinton carried Nevada and its 6 electoral votes in 2016. Joe Biden has to hold. As right now, 49% to 48%. So that's close. We have to keep our eyes on this and see how things go. The all-important Pennsylvania. This is the states, and we're going to keep watching this state. Again, only 64% reporting so far. We already played the video where they said that look, this is the first time they're dealing with a deluge of mail-in ballots plus in-person voting, 20 electoral votes. This race has tightened up. Biden at 43%, Trump at 57%. It's expected that as more votes come in, Philadelphia, Democratic stronghold, more votes for Biden could come in. Another very important state, Michigan, 91% reporting. When this was 80%, President Trump was about 4 or 5 percentage points ahead of Biden. Look at that now. It's 1%. More mail-in votes are still coming in. It's getting tight. 16 crucial electoral votes. It will boost either of them on the way to 270 should either of them be declared the winner in Michigan. So Michigan just as important as Pennsylvania. Again, part of the Rust Belt. And then Wisconsin. 95% reporting. Earlier on, when we're about 81% reporting, President Trump had about a 6 or 7 percentage lead on Joe Biden. Look at where it is now. Biden has flipped it. This is one of the states that he has to take if he is going to become the next president of the United States. 10 crucial electoral votes that are up for grabs here in Wisconsin. The counting continues in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, and it's going to be very, very interesting. We just talked to a whole number of analysts now about the market volatility. We're seeing the stock market, how it could react in the meantime until a decision is made. It's hoped that we get that decision soon. Arizona, this was a state that President Trump won in 2016. He defeated Hillary Clinton, and it was called for Joe Biden. 84% of the precincts reporting. Joe Biden now, he's taken the lead, 51% to 47%. Some outlets have called it for him. Others are still being cautious. But he has to hold this state. John McCain, former senator from Arizona, his wife endorsed Joe Biden. John McCain is a Republican, so it was quite a snatch for Joe Biden to flip this state blue. Crucial 11 electoral. He needs every single electoral vote out there. Georgia initially called for Donald Trump. 94% of the precincts reporting. It's close. 3 percentage points there between Trump and Biden. 51% to 48%. 16 electoral votes. That seems to be tightening because of Fulton County, which has Atlanta. Big Democratic stronghold, a lot of African Americans there. So the numbers are still coming in. If Georgia switches, Georgia, again, the last Democrat, I believe, was Jimmy Carter, who is from Georgia, that took the state, and possibly Bill Clinton in 1992, hasn't gone Democratic in years. If Joe Biden takes this state along with the others, well, he might well be the next president of the United States. But again, it's still too close to call. We're keeping our eyes on the prizes with respect to these numbers. That, of course, is the continued coverage from Arise News of America Decides. Dramatic stuff. Stay tuned to Arise News. Thank you so much for watching. I am Rotis Odir.